Gordon Williams. I'm a partner in the HR and IR team at Minter Ellison in Sydney, and have worked for Minters for my entire career here in Australia. As you can probably tell by the accent, a POM. I worked in London for about 5 years before moving to Australia. If you think that you can grill me about what it was like being a gay lawyer in London, unfortunately I'm not able to help you because I was actually closeted in London, and it wasn't until I moved to Sydney and I suppose as part of that move to Minter Ellison did I actually eventually come out to my colleagues. I've been very fortunate to be involved with the Minter Ellison Prime network. You've heard some of that, I imagine, from Wes. The Prime Pride Respect inclusion at Minter Ellison network was established about 12 months ago. It was very much, is very much was a grassroots initiative. By that I mean it came from the lawyers. In fact, it came from Wes and one of Wes's colleagues, Eric White. They approached myself and another partner, suggesting that whilst there wasn't really anything broken at Minter Ellison in this space, it would be a really good idea in their view that we establish a LGBTIQ network. My first response to that was, in one sense, flattered that they'd reached out to me and asked me for my opinion and potentially my help. My second thought was, do we really need it? Maybe my third or fourth thought was, how will the firm respond, and do I really want to put my head above the parapet and be part of that initiative? But I quickly realized that it was a very good idea, and so once I started thinking about it, I also realized that Minter Ellison probably was a little bit behind the game in terms of some of the other firms and how they had been demonstrably supporting their LGBTIQ staff. So the last 12 months has seen a lot of work in relation to the establishment and the development of Prime, and I can certainly talk about some of those things a little bit later if you'd like me to.
Okay, well, how about now? If you can just talk about Prime.
Okay. So it's been quite organic, if I can use that word. One of the great things about it is, and I would echo what Wes said in terms of us having senior executive support and sponsorship. I don't think we could have achieved what we've achieved in the last 12 months without that, but it has been a very organic development. And by that I mean we've been allowed to really drive the agenda and drive the development of Prime. We've done it within the overall diversity and empower program that the firm is working on, which obviously looks at gender diversity amongst other things. But we've been, as I say, allowed to really build it as we think it should be built, taking on board feedback from our community, and by that I mean the lawyers and staff at Minter Ellison, not just those who identify as LGBTIQ, but the allies and the champions, and also with a lot of support from Pride in Diversity, which is a terrific organisation that supports corporate Australia in developing its own LGBTIQ networks. So what have we done? If I think about what have we done in the last 12 months as a firm, we've established our network. We've created a committee, which is across each of the offices in Australia. We have, and this has been one of the most interesting things, we've partnered with Prime, and very early on, Prime came along and did some training for the committee, but also for our board members and for our key champions and allies, particularly in the senior management positions in the firm. That was terrific, and I think that really demonstrated to those people who took part in the training how important it was to have a network like this, so that staff would know very clearly that the firm was supportive of fostering an inclusive organisation. We've done a bunch of fun things, like the little black dress run for around Mardi Gras time, which is in support of, it's a charity run, in support of a youth LGBTIQ organisation. I'm very proud to say that Minter Ellison raised the most of any of the corporate teams that entered. And since then, more of the same. Recently there was training to the whole office in Perth. I went to the Canberra office launch. Brisbane launched about a month ago. And the great thing that we know from each of those is that not only was there fantastic lawyer and support staff attendance, as you'd expect, but there was also great attendance by the partners and by the board members in each state. That demonstrates, I think, to the staff very clearly how important they see all of this and how they value it.
And what are some of the benefits that flow from that for the firm?
Multiple. I think, and in no particular order, I think it would help with recruitment. I think it's a terrific thing to be able to say at the recruitment fairs that, you know, Minter Ellison has an LGBTIQ network that is more than just lip service, and so we can talk to all of those things so it looks genuine, it looks authentic. But I think perhaps the two other most important things are it allows LGBTIQ staff at Minters to, and this is a completely overused phrase, but I think it really does catch it, it allows them to bring their whole selves to work, which means that they can be, it means that it is easier for them to develop genuine relationships with their colleagues and genuine relationships with their clients. And I certainly know my own personal experience. I mean, I've generally been out for 14 years, but in the last 8 months, I came out to my father. And I believe that one of the reasons I did it when I did is because of the work I was doing with Prime at Minter Ellison. So I think having that network allows people to feel much more comfortable to be themselves. It also really helps with the client relationships. I can think of a couple of clients who I have the best relationship with. They know me, they know I'm gay, they know my partner. And I talk to them about what I do at the weekend, and as a result, we connect. I can think of a couple of clients where I'm still holding back a lot. Well, basically, I'm holding back anything about myself because I'm not sure how it's going to go down. Now, I probably should be brave enough to just have the conversation. I'm not there yet. Hopefully, I'll get there. It's a journey, I think, for all of us. But having Prime has certainly allowed me, and I believe others, to move much further forward than we would otherwise have been. The third thing I'll say, and then I'll stop talking, I actually think that it has demonstrated to those who are not LGBTIQ how important it is to actually talk about this and have a network that supports this. I think they probably would have thought there's not a problem, so we don't need to fix it. I think through conversations that have started only because of the network, or because of conversations that have happened because of the training that people have been through, they now realize how difficult it is or can be for LGBTIQ staff to deal with their colleagues and to deal with their clients if they're keeping so much of themselves secret. There was one, I think, really good example of that where Amanda Watt, who's a partner in our Melbourne office, an amazing partner in the employment team, and a board member, came to training when PID did that in Melbourne. And there's an exercise where for 2 minutes you're effectively quizzed about your weekend, and you're not allowed to say anything that would disclose the gender or sexuality of your partner. And for 2 minutes, Amanda was asked questions about what she did, who did she go to the beach with, about her kids. And you could see that she was struggling to answer those questions. She would pause, she would hesitate. it didn't look genuine. And you could just imagine if that was a client conversation, the client would be thinking, what's wrong with this person? Why don't they like me? Why are they, what are they holding back? And so I think it really gives people who aren't in the community a deeper understanding of some of the challenges. And if they understand the challenges, then that obviously means that, you know, we can all try and address some of those things.
Have you found any resistance to Prime, the involvement of Prime both within Minters but also outside the firm, whether it be with other lawyers or with clients or both? And if so, how have you addressed that?
Sort of wish I could say, yes, I have, because then I could give you an example. But honestly, no, absolutely not. If I'm completely honest, there may be some people who, you know, have said, do you really think that we needed Prime? And as I say, that was a question I asked myself when Wes and Eric first raised it with me. But there's been, I mean, that's probably the most negative sort of feedback or reaction we've had, and I don't think it's negative. I just think it comes from a position of perhaps not appreciating just what the difficulties might be, but certainly no resistance. It may sound like I've drunk the Kool-Aid. I was at a partners symposium on Tuesday, and the chair of our board, in his opening remarks, did what a good chair should do, thanked, you know, all of the various people in the firm, you know, business unit leaders, office managing partners, all those people behind the scenes who are doing a terrific job, etc. And he finished by thanking the Prime Committee and some of the people who've done a lot of work to support the Prime Committee. And I think him calling that out as part of his opening address in front of 260 partners from across Australia tells you just how much Minters has embraced this in the last sort of 12 or 18 months.
Okay. Do you use the network, or do you see opportunities to use the network to actually connect with other networks within your clients and you know, really be a kind of driving force for relationships with clients and stuff as well, and fostering a broader...
Yeah. I
open.
think absolutely. We're not quite there yet. Minters is about to host its first Interfirm event. You've probably, or other people may have talked about Interfirm. It's a network made up principally of law firms, accountancy firms, and other professional services firms. And once a month, one of those organizations will host drinks, and it's our turn to do that in a couple of weeks' time. And a number of us have been to other Interfirm network drinks. So absolutely, that's helping. Those networks are helping us and our relationships with our colleagues. There will be opportunities, I think, to do similar things with clients. Most large clients now have their own networks. That's something that hopefully we'll see more of. And I think it absolutely can only help.
Yeah. Great.
Can I shift issues slightly? As a partner of a large law firm, you'd be aware, obviously, that there are lots of changes happening to the profession. The impact of technology, the influence of clients, new ways of working. What are your observations about how those changes are being received by lawyers, and what are the difficulties, if any, or the experiences you've had in terms of people accepting those changes in the way in which they do work?
I think the difficulties probably, if I take technology as an example, I mean, at one level, I guess the advances in technology have been are terrific because they allow us to work much more flexibly, allow us to work remotely far easier than ever before. Personal experience, we have far better ability now to log in from home or from wherever I happen to be, whether that's on holiday, back home or whatever. And so I think that's an incredibly positive development. That very much plays into, I think, not just our strategy, but probably all firms' strategies about empowering people to work from home or from client sites, whatever it may be. So that I see as a really positive development. I think where the profession is going with technology more generally, some of us find that a bit of a challenge. I'm not very techie. And unlike some of my partners who are. And I find it really hard to get my head around how we are going to do things differently and given technological advances. And so I struggle a little bit with that, and I think probably a lot of more seasoned lawyers do. Junior lawyers, on the other hand, or students who are applying for jobs are absolutely fascinated by it. So I do a lot of the summer clerk recruitment. And Minters has been talking about innovation a lot. It's pretty much one of the first questions they all ask. They're absolutely fascinated by what the firm's doing in the digital space, in terms of technology, in terms of some of the new projects or products rather that the firm is working on and rolling out. They embrace it wholeheartedly. I think the challenges come from some of the others like myself who perhaps just haven't quite wrapped their head around it yet. And so I think there's going to be an education process. It's going to take time. And maybe some people will be feeling a little bit challenged by it. Are we going to be redundant in 15 years' time when everyone's going to be able to, plug in information and get a piece of advice from a faceless computer program? I think some people wonder about that.